We're here on the Oudesides Voorburg wall again. Just gives us a little chance to chat about the Dutch type of architecture that we see so much here in Amsterdam. Now, the canal houses are kind of synonymous, basically, with the golden age of the city. A lot of these that we see here are principally out of brick, built in the 1600s. Now, we're in the medieval part of the city. So the original buildings along these streets here, dating from 1300s, 1400s, would have been made out of timber. And now those are all long gone. There's only one timber house left in the city, and we'll actually see that later on the tour. But there was a fire code enacted in the 1450s after a couple of serious fires had wiped out parts of the old city. And so that's essentially why nowadays we see the city in this uniform sort of red brick. Now, first question obviously a lot of people remark upon or ask is, why are the houses so narrow? You can see principally, and these would have all been residences that we see on this canal and many of the other canals. The reason why the houses are so narrow is they're actually taxed upon their width. And so, for instance, if you happen to be going along the Herengracht, another time you see the famous Golden Bend there, you'll notice that those buildings are actually double width in terms of, to us looks basically like a modern day house in many parts of the world. But in those days, it actually would have been twice the width of really any other regular canal house, basically just exemplifying their wealth. So that's just as a for instance why they're so narrow. Now, another thing that's very obvious to notice is in many cases the buildings, especially the older ones, are actually leaning outwards, forwards from the street. Now that's not an optical illusion, they are in fact leaning out. And that's for the fact that a lot of these old buildings would have been used partially as warehouses. So they were not only residences, for day-to-day offices, and then the upper floors in the sort of heyday of shipping would have been used as, say, as warehouses. And we can see a couple of the buildings just over here to our right, right along the waterfront. So this is a kind of a good example, not necessarily this canal in particular, but just as an example of the types of houses that would have been used, as say, as warehouses. You can imagine ships pulled up to the sides of the buildings here and then winched up into the upper stories. Now, obviously it's a little bit dark out now, but you can still see on many of the buildings as you walk around during the daytime that they actually have hooks and levers right up at the top story of the buildings. Now that originally would have been used as a winch to bring in the goods up into the upper stories. Still to this day, quite hilariously, is used for everyday moving vans. People moving in their apartments. My own brother's apartment in the city, which is up on the third floor, had to get a winch in to pull up his sofa, couch, bed, etc. So quite honestly, on occasion on these tours, we will see walking around the city sometimes, people even moving into their apartments. And sure enough, the windows are wide open, having stuff been winched up. Now, the other aspect of the tilt of the houses that we'll see, not on all of them obviously, but on some of them, is that they seem to be tilting sideways. Now, this is a result of the age of these buildings. The fact is, again, many of these are built in the 1600s, even 1700s, and what are they built on? Well, if we remember from the outset here, we talked about the kind of drainage issues, the swampy nature of the city of Amsterdam, very peaty soil, and so in order to support the weight of all of these buildings, hundreds upon hundreds of massive logs, known as wooden pilings, have to be drilled down into the water level, into the sand, which goes about 20 feet down, in order to support the weight of all of these buildings. Some of the larger ones, the Royal Palace, or formerly City Hall in Dam Square, has tens of thousands of wooden pilings under it. The New Kirk as well, the new church there, again, tens of thousands of Nordic timber underneath the street level. Now, as over time those begin to rot, not many of them, again, we look around the city, obviously tens of thousands of houses still standing, but on occasion a few of these wooden pilings will begin to rot down through the ages, give way, and so that's why we've got just ever so slightly a tilt on many of these buildings. Now we're going to continue on the tour towards the Newmarket area, but just while we're here in this little area, I like to always point out a little cafe just over here, known as Cafe Ain't Water, or On the Water. Within the red light general area that we're in here, it's actually kind of a nice spot, particularly during the daytime under the shade of the trees there. It's a lovely spot just to have a bit of refreshment or a drink, sort of nearby, but a little bit removed from the busyness of the entire red light district area.